Julius Wardley, pastor of the St. James United Methodist Church. Pastor, if you'll please come forward. Everyone, please stand if you so choose and remain standing for the pledge. Also, I would ask if everyone would please silence their cell phones. Thank you. Thank you.
Let us pray. Holy One, known by many names and beyond all names, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of community, we ask your blessings on the people who have been called to lead this community in which we live and work and play. We pray that they will always seek the welfare of the city, the good of all the people who live in it. We pray, oh God, for their wisdom, that they'll be filled with love and insight. And we also pray for the city that you will bless and keep each and every one. Let your light shine through them. And Lord, we pray for all of our educators as well. This we pray in the name of all that we hold holy, sacred, and all that is good, right, and true. Amen.
Amen. Please join us in the pledge to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Wardley. May I have the roll call, please?
Mayor Mouton.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Durio.
Present.
Councilmember Getz, absent. Councilmember Turner, absent. Councilmember Felshaw.
Present.
Councilmember Samuel.
Present.
And Councilmember Neal.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Today I have one proclamation and one recognition. And in the audience, we would like to recognize the students from Legacy Christian Academy Senior American Government class. If you would please stand. Thank you so very much for joining us. At this time, I would like to read a proclamation in recognition of National Teachers Appreciation Week. Whereas one of the greatest gifts our school gives to students and educators is time spent with one another. The daily opportunity to learn and grow together, face to face. There is no substitute for the wisdom this experience brings. Whereas teachers play so many different roles, they are mentors who guide with creativity and care. They're advocates who fight for students' needs. They're role models who help students dream and dare more boldly. And leaders who tirelessly support the families and communities that depend on them. Whereas Teacher Appreciation Week is one of the most important annual observances in education because it brings attention to the teaching profession, which is worthy of respect, honor, and praise. Whereas our teachers in Beaumont are the superstars of public education, and they go beyond expectations every day to ensure that children learn, grow, and thrive in a school environment that is safe, welcoming, nourishing, and productive. Whereas during Teacher Week, people across the United States are encouraged to use #ThankATeacher on social media to show appreciation for teachers and to express their thoughts about how a teacher made a significant difference in their lives. Now, therefore, I, Robin Mouton, Mayor of the City of Beaumont, do hereby proclaim May 8th through 12th, 2023 as National Teacher Appreciation Week in Beaumont and pay tribute to educators who empower students across the country with the knowledge and skill they need to reach their potential and achieve their dreams. Accordingly, I, Mayor Robin Mouton, has hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Beaumont to be affixed this day, May 9th, 2023, signed Mayor Robin Mouton, and accepting will be Dr. Shannon Allen, Beaumont Independent School District Superintendent. And Dr. Allen, if you'll come forward, if you have anyone with you, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Mouton and City Council members. I would like to ask that all of our Teacher of the Year representatives from each of our campuses who are present today, can you please stand and join me? We have several teachers present today. Come on up, please. I want you to really see these folks. I really want you to see these individual teachers. I mean, Mayor Mouton, she said it so well when she stated that these teachers are rock stars. And when you look at the quality of work that they do, it is amazing. Our teachers are working every day with nearly 17,000 students every single day. And these teachers who are standing behind me, they give everything. Day in and day out. They love on our kids. They support our kids. They teach our kids. They are mothers and fathers. They do everything imaginable. Things that we didn't need from our teachers back when we were in school, they are giving it to our kids each and every single day. I'm so proud of them. Last Friday night, we had an opportunity to recognize each of these teachers and actually name an elementary Teacher of the Year and a Secondary Teacher of the Year. So I will ask our Elementary and Secondary Teacher of the Year, please come on forward. Ms. Bettina Evans, Secondary, and Ms. Cheryl Spangler. Where's Ms.? I put them on the spot, but I do want you to hear from them for just a minute.
I just want to thank you for such a wonderful afternoon to be able to have the honor of coming to a City Hall meeting. It's been a very exciting journey, and I'm very thankful and humble for all the opportunities and to meet all these wonderful teachers. And so thank you for all those opportunities, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good morning to you all, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I see you, Pastor Philshaw. Just a grand opportunity to be able to be here and to represent our community here as educators. We're truly indeed dedicated to our children, and we are committed. And we look forward as a district working together with you all, City Council members, to bring the community together along with our students so we can have a better future. So once again, thank you to each and every one of you that serve our community.
Thank you all so much. The work that you do is, you can't put a price to it. I'll give them a few minutes to exit. If anybody in the back would like to take a seat, you may do so. Okay, at this time, I would like to make a recognition of appreciation to some of our local retired teachers who have a combined total of over 100 years of teaching in the city of Beaumont. In honor of National Teachers Appreciation Week, I want to take the time to thank some of my own personal teachers who inspired me. These amazing women taught me to believe in myself, to never give up on my dream. They helped me to work hard and to always strive to be the best version of myself. These teachers have taught in the Beaumont Independent School District for a combined of over 100 years, mentoring, coaching, training both inside and outside of the classroom. I want to say to each one of you, thank you for the invaluable impact you've had on my life and so many others. So at this time, I would like to ask Mrs. Algertha Scroggins, who was my 5th grade teacher and PE coach, if she would please come forward at this time. And if you'll stand right here, Ms. Scroggins. She's going to take our picture.
You want the whole council?
Yeah, the whole council. Thank you. Stay up front. I would also like to ask Mrs. Linda Gilmore, one of the best kindergarten teachers this city has ever seen. Awesome, awesome teacher. She taught my daughter, and my daughter told her she didn't like her, and she didn't want to be in her classroom. She said, well, you don't have to like me. You just have to learn. To you, Ms. Gilmore, I thank you. And she also taught my grandson. And Ms. Scroggins also taught my son. Thank you. And before the council sit down, and you don't have to do this again, I'm going to ask another wonderful teacher who taught my son, Mrs. Bobby Granger, if you would please come forward. And thank you for being such a wonderful teacher. So if y'all would please come forward with the flowers and their gifts. And to each one of you, Ms. Gilmore, a certificate of appreciation. It's proudly presented to Mrs. Linda Gilmore in honor of National Teachers Appreciation Week. Also to you, Ms. Bobby Granger. And Mrs. Algertha Scroggins. Please give them a hand. If y'all would like to go to the podium and say something, you may.
We do this because we love children, but we leave our families every day to go and do this. And so to have this appreciation is something I needed today, Britt. But I want to say this. Carmen was a handful. When it was the 100th day of school, I always would give my children a fake $100 bill. Carmen wrote, "I'll take that baby Benjamin to the bank." And it is now hanging in Mayor Mouton's house because I said that $100 bill has to go to the bank. But I want to thank you for this today. Thank you so much. Now I have to go back and look at my lovely ones that I'm still teaching, but because my family, and if you give me time, would my family stand? They help me to go every day. These two ladies have worked their everything off. And I want y'all to know, goodbye.
I would like to say also, just thank you for thinking of us. But what we did, we've already received the results. When we look back at the students that we've taught, and we see them doing well, we see them remembering those things that I heard Robin tell you a minute or two ago. That's all we ask, is that you give your best. Let nothing stop you from doing what you want to do. No one can stop you but you. And that's what I taught the children that I taught. And I have them doing a lot of things. And I always took that word can't. We don't even know that meaning because it's not so. We put forth every effort. And I always believed that every child can learn. Not just a few, but every child. But that child has to know that I expect it from you. And when I met my children, I met them with that. I'm going to get the best out of you. When you walk through that door, I'm the queen of the room. I teach. I had one to tell his mother, "Mama, she's a witch. Mama, she's a witch." But I tell you what, he's a lawyer now. He's a lawyer today. And it's just, I don't know. I just want the children. I work with children at my church now. I can't do it out, but I can do it at church. And as long as and you know something else I want to say too? Because I had a minister to tell us this one time in a teaching situation. Every day of your life, and I think this goes for all of us, you are teaching. Whether you know it or not, whether it's you are teaching them to be on time, whether you are teaching them to learn what's being taught, or just life. So remember that teaching is just not teachers, but it's all of us. And as teachers, we know this. So therefore, we give our best every single day. I was at school oh, goodness gracious. In the morning and in the evening, during the summer and all, because I expected it. And my children produced it. That's a good example right there.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Everything they said was true and then some more. But I did want to thank you so much. All the years that I did teach, loved all the children, loved all that you gave, Robin, and what you're still giving. So thank you so much. Thank you to Arvin, who is my councilman. Thanks to all of you. I appreciate it. Good day.
I want to also say who's not present today that will also be receiving certificates is Coach Regina Myers, Mrs. Dora Ledoux, Mrs. Dolores Sinnett, Coach Leo Nolan, and Mrs. Barbara Durley. And two of those were Coach Myers and Coach Nolan were my high school coaches. Ms. Sinnett was my chemistry teacher, and Ms. Barbara Durley is family, the widow of Coach Alex Durley. And Mrs. Ledoux was my history teacher. And so they will be receiving their certificates by mail or either in person by me. But I could not pass up this opportunity to acknowledge those who have been so significant in my life and for your appreciation of what you have instilled in me. Thank you so very much. So at this time, for those of you that are here for the recognition and proclamations, if you would like to leave, you may do so, and I will give you a few minutes. But I want to thank each and every one of you for coming. Thank you so very much. Now we have a presentation on emergency notification system, and would Officer Tim Oknichek please come to the podium? Thank you.
Afternoon, Mayor and Council. Next slide. The emergency management role for alerts is to support or provide timely warnings to the public of impending emergencies or those which have occurred that may save lives, decrease injuries, and reduce some types of property damage. And we want the shortest time between the threat being cited and actually getting the warning out. So we depend on eyewitnesses and the weather service, most importantly. We also have our own notification system to support the critical notifications. So the electronic news media, the TV and radio broadcast news, are the primary source of the emergency information we get out to the public. And there's National Weather Service, there's meteorologists at the stations, there's city officials, and a lot of other people that provide that information, but they're the ones that get it out. We also have some additional ways that we can help get the message out, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But there's several systems that those the emergency type notifications can use. One of them is the emergency alerting system. And that is done through the National Weather Service, and you've seen a couple of those come out in the last couple of days that hits the broadcast TV and radio. There's also the wireless emergency alerting, which is a little different than just cell phone registration, because a lot of times you don't get people registering their cell phones for whatever reason. But this actually uses all cell phones or any kind of electronic media, wireless media that can, anybody that's in range of that cell tower actually gets notified. So that's whether you register or not. And if you happen to be outside the alerting area and you come inside it at a, maybe minutes later or hour later or whatever, it will see that you're in that area and haven't been notified, and it'll notify you as well. So the most effective method of notification is cell phones. Everybody has one. You think of some signage, some other alerts that come out on your, like amber alerts, silver alerts, weather warnings that have come out. So we can't depend on voluntary registration of cell phones. We already know that. So for critical information to get out, like tornadoes, using wireless alerting gives us the ability to contact every phone that's around. And it also can push to a variety of other media, such as websites, social media, and it can provide text, email, and some other services in addition to the wireless alerting. So IPAWS, which is how it's generally known, the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, that's one of the ones, the wireless alerting that the city actually has access to allow us to use cell phones. And there's very strict regulations from the federal government and how that's used and when that's used. But just like the media alerts that you've had in the last couple of days, those can be put out by the city as well.
Tim, what's the difference between IPAWS and the ones just using cell towers?
IPAWS also uses cell towers. It's just the national broadcast and the state broadcast, or the national weather alerting and the state weather alerting use a version of IPAWS, and it's through wireless alerting. So it's several series, but I didn't put all the acronyms out there, but the national and alert warning system is NAWAS, and then there's a Texas one as well. They also use that wireless emergency alerting, and so does IPAWS. So with regard to the city system, the city partners with the Regional Planning Commission for STAN, as it's known, and many people have registered for emergency alerting by calling 311. That's part of STAN. If you call the numbers on STAN, if you go to the website, the city website, all those go through a group contract that is supported by industry. And so that's been a very cost-effective measure for the city and the whole region, the 4-county region, to have emergency alerting through a combination of grants and the support of the Plant Managers Forum for match. That allows a reverse 911 type capability, so all landlines get tagged. You also have email, text, voice, even social media that can be posted. Websites can be posted automatically when you send out the alert. So there's a lot of capabilities you have with this, and including IPAWS, the wireless alerting network. Next slide. So we use our system to contact those for a variety of reasons. We use it for the state of Texas emergency assistance registrants, the people that need a ride, the people that can't manage to get themselves out because they don't have somebody to help them. We also use that for alerting groups, regional response teams, even water customer alerts and things like that. So it has a lot of capabilities, and it's not just functioning on one capability. We can issue shelter-in-place notices. We can issue event and incident notices, even if they're not weather-related. So next slide. That's what a storm siren looks like, in case you haven't seen one. And next slide. Some communities use the public address systems. Usually they're very, very small ones, or places like a refinery, places like a business or a small area. But voice doesn't carry very far, so the norm is to use a tone-only siren, which is for alerting people that are outside, not in a car. The sirens normally function on like a 3-minute cycle, so you have to be outside to hear it. But it's to alert people of an immediate threat. Normally, they're limited to tornadoes and to wind speeds of 70 to 75 miles an hour, which is looking at a number of people's standards, including the one on the National Weather Service website and FEMA's Those are pretty much the thresholds for use. But they're for small areas. So there's also a few larger areas like the Dallas-Fort Worth area that have a very high tornado threat, common threat, and they've found that it's warranted to have a tone-only siren system in their city. And generally, the places that do it are within what we would call Tornado Alley, or what nationally is known as Tornado Alley, which is northern Texas up into Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, that area there where they have a lot of tornadoes. Beaumont used to have sirens many years ago. I haven't dated it exactly, but it's been over 20 years. I was told by my predecessors that they were too expensive to maintain, too expensive to get replaced. And most importantly, they weren't effective. Much like your car alarms, you see, people don't even pay attention to that. They don't even turn in the parking lot to see whose car is going off, or even it's their own car. They continue to ignore them. The more frequently people hear an alert and it's not legitimate, the more they are tending to disregard those kind of message. And from talking to peers around the country for a number of years, that's what they're seeing nationally. A lot of agencies that had them are getting rid of them. And my understanding of how they were used for the city back when they were originally installed was more as a civil type method of a Cold War area, fear of attacks, not necessarily fear of weather. Next slide. So I asked the National Weather Service to provide some information, and they've helped in a number of studies. Tornadoes in and around Beaumont are extremely rare. Since 1956, which is when the detailed information was available, there's only been 33 tornadoes in all of Jefferson County. And if you average that over the 67 years, that'd be one tornado every 2 years. However, in the last 3 years, there's only been one tornado in South Jefferson, and there's only been two in Beaumont in the whole decade, or in Jefferson County in the whole decade of 2010. So since 1956, Beaumont's only had 6 tornadoes, 1967, 1974, 1980, 1981, 2001. And the most recent, y'all remember Parkdale Mall, Kohl's, Walmart, the roofs torn off, cars overturned. That was in 2009. However, there was no warning for that event. So, that one wouldn't have had reason to activate a siren. There was no warning that was going to happen. So there's only one tornado event that would have met the standard recommendation for activation of the siren in the expected lifespan of the siren. We'll talk about that in a minute. Next slide.
Chief, let me ask you something before you move forward. So you said the Kohl's incident did not, there was no time to warn. So if there's a notification of a tornado, then is the siren activated by the winds, or?
It's activated by a report of an immediate threat of the tornado or a wind in excess of 70 miles an hour. So in this case, there was no warning that the winds would exceed 70, much less that there was going to be a tornado. So there was no warning by the National Weather Service. There was no warning locally. So until we saw the tornado actually tearing up roofs and turning over cars, nobody knew about it. And that happens down here periodically, as we know, over the last few years in Orange and some other areas. So it does happen where you don't get warning.
So the siren would really not even be effective because...
Well, it's only effective if you get the warning.
Right.
And you got to get it in a timely enough manner that we can get it out. But in addition, the National Weather Service has the ability to activate those alerts that you got on your phone over the last couple of days directly when they hear something. So that lag time of the warning is extremely short. Whereas you don't have to process a notification to the people that set off the sirens. And that lag time, if you don't have any warning or very little warning, a few minutes of warning, it may not be enough to get the notification out.
Okay, thank you.
So I posted this from the National Weather Service report so that you can sort of see how many tornadoes happen in a 10-year period. You see one in the 20s, two in the 10s, and so forth. So I just posted that for your view. Next slide. The other thing, as we mentioned, is winds over 70 miles an hour. So we looked at that as well with the National Weather Service. And, the residents of Beaumont around the Lamar University area and Lamar University probably remember the straight line wind event. Many people thought it was a tornado. It wasn't. In April of 2018, that was actually, they had gusts around 110 miles an hour. So that definitely would have warranted the winds, the activation of a siren if we had known about it. But again, we didn't have knowledge that those winds were going to exceed that wind speed till it was already happening. So that wouldn't have resulted in an activation of the siren as well. Now, wind speeds of that nature, National Weather Service is only going back to 2009, if I remember right. So we don't have as long of we don't have a 67-year history of high winds at that speed. But in the timeline that we have, there wasn't any else in Beaumont in that time frame. There was some in other parts of the county, just a couple. Next slide. What we do have a lot of, as y'all know, is thunderstorms, flooding, and hurricanes. And, we have a process, and the mayor, the judges, that they ordered evacuations, and they order, shelter in place sometimes. People aren't supposed to be out in the first place, so they shouldn't be outside if there are sirens. One of the things that's common around hurricanes is the generation of tornadoes. So I wanted to bring that up because those 6 tornadoes that happened at Beaumont over the last 67 years, none of those were in association with a hurricane. Next slide. So, did I skip something? Yeah, that's it. So, and I sort of mentioned this earlier, a lot of people don't register their phones. A lot of people don't listen to orders when they're given. When they were told to shelter in place yesterday, some people, walked out anyway. In Ike, we estimate that there was about 80% compliance with the mayor's order to evacuate, whereas in Gustav, about a week later, we estimate about 50% of people listened to that order. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that, but at the same time, just because you have a notification provided doesn't mean people are going to listen to it. So again, the wireless system that forces it to a phone that almost everybody has is the most effective way to reach people because you get the text notification as well as a voice notification. Next slide. So we did get a couple of quotes. We've talked to a company named Storm Sirens. The first quote that we got was for 36 sirens, and you can see the price up there, about $3.6 million, and that was for coverage of the whole city. I went back to the company and asked for some clarification of a couple issues, and she had a second quote for just over $1 million with 29 sirens. However, that would leave some gaps of less populated areas of the city. But what I did feel is that gave you sort of an estimate of the cost based on what council directed, or if y'all want something done. Yes,
Sorry, Councilmember Turner has a question.
I'm real big on specifics. When we say less populated areas, did we kind of have an analysis of what those less populated areas are?
I do have a map. I didn't provide that in this forum. However, depending on what council directs administration to do, we can have more detailed information. She did provide the map. One of the things that lessened this cost was potentially using sirens in city-owned facilities or on city-owned facilities, which would reduce some costs, and that partially dictated some gaps. But we do have a sheet that I could provide, if y'all want, that would show you what the coverage areas of the 36 sirens and the 29 sirens are.
Yes, thank you. I just would feel more comfortable when we discuss this if I can actually physically see what these less populated areas are.
Mayor, if I could
Yes.
get Chief Check to get that, Mayor, and I can share it with council, get you that information.
I can
Thank you.
get it right in a few minutes. So the lifespan is estimated to be 25 to 35 years. The companies, I asked her, they've been in business since 1905, but they only had a couple that have reached the 15-year mark. So I didn't really have good information on that. However, this one company is the only one that I've dealt with until I get more direction. The warranty on the equipment depends on what it is. The sirens are about 5 years. The pieces that make it run and control activation run about 2 years for a warranty. So it's very expensive. It only affects a very small segment of the population that happens to be outside at the time the siren's going off, that aren't in a car, aren't in a building. And based on the National Weather Service and other standards that we've seen so far, it would have only been warranted 4 to 5 times in 67 years and only twice in the expected lifespan of the siren. So, next
Chief
slide.
Check.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're saying that if someone is inside of their home, they would not be able to hear it?
They may be able to hear it, but it's designed to be outside. So the recommendations for the decibel levels are such that it's designed to be outside. And if you look at either the FEMA guidance or the siren literature, it's designed for outdoor use only, not even in cars, not in buildings, because they can't depend on you being able to hear it.
Okay. Councilmember Neal.
Thank you, Mayor. So you said the best way to transmit this information right now is by cell phone, correct?
I believe that.
So what percentage of our population do you think have cell phones?
We estimate about 8% have voluntarily registered their phone, but through the use of iPause, which is a wireless alert system, you don't have to register to get that notification. So if we have an alert warranting activation the National Weather Service didn't already put out, or if we want to duplicate what they did put out, we also have the ability to go to all cell phones within a geographic area, every tower within a geographic area with a message.
And you think the vast majority, 95+% of the population all have cell phones?
I don't know that percentage.
Good, thank you.
Councilmember Samuel.
But you believe a larger section of the populace would have cell phones as opposed to being able to hear it just physically from being outside?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem.
How far, what distance can you hear these sirens? How far away? What do they cover? If you're
I think
outside.
it's 2,000 feet if you go to the right decibel level, but I may be wrong. I can check if you want. I got the material here I can dig through, or I can get back to you.
That's fine.
And that information that I'm sending through the manager has that information in it.
So these things, do they run by a battery, or do you have to run wires to them, connect them to electrical lines, or what?
They're recommended to be hardwired for electricity. However, they do have battery backups, and that's one of the things that's included in both those costs.
Okay. But it's still, I guess, when somebody actually has to press a button to activate the alarm. A
Correct.
person has to do that when they get the notification.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Well, it's putting out alert, but basically, yes, sir.
Councilmember Samuel.
Yes, Mayor, I'd just like to note, day before yesterday, there was an alarm came about a tornado, possibly.
Yes, sir.
How many folks in here, raise your hand if you got that alert on your phones?
Thank you, Councilmember Samuel.
So, weather alerts are made immediately by the National Weather Service for tornadoes and high winds if you are within what they call a polygon. They've only been using the polygon thing since like October of 2017. So that's a little newer, but if you're in with polygon like we were yesterday, they do activate that system. That's why y'all got that alert. So that sort of refines the forecast area, which covers, if I remember right, somewhere around 40-something counties, including some parishes. But it spans into southwest Louisiana. Beaumont has a variety of ways to use our system. It's robust, and it allows us to hit different messaging things. Like, for instance, texts sometimes go through, even if there's a large emergency, a lot of people are on their phones. Sometimes text will go through even if voice doesn't go through. So we have those abilities. Sirens are rarely used. They're very expensive. And we do have a range for you just to estimate for planning purposes. And that is my presentation unless there's questions.
Councilmember Turner.
Yeah, can you go back to the slide where you had the actual quotes and the prices? Tina, if you don't mind, thank you. I understand that the cell phones are more likely to use, but I still have a concern that when we're looking at this dollar amount and we're spreading it over 30 years, like the return on an investment, if we can even save a life. So, I mean, that's just a concern of mine, just from your experience. What are your thoughts?
I don't know that's, if y'all want to put in sirens, then we can make it happen in a timely manner. I think we have a lot of ways to get the notifications out. There's going to be very few people that are in a position that they're going to hear the sirens, and those that hear it, how many are going to listen based on what I'm hearing nationwide from the trends. Not 100% of the people that get the warning are going to heed it. And so whether it's effective or not, that's why I'm trying to present as much as I can in the way of statistics that y'all can assess whether that cost is warranted.
Mayor,
Councilmember Getz.
when Councilmember Samuel asked his question of how many people got the warning yesterday, I just want the record to reflect that just about everybody in this room raised their hand. I got that warning, and it said take cover immediately. It was right there on my cell phone, and it let me know what was coming or what the concern was, what the threat was. If you're outside and you hear a siren, you don't have that additional information. You don't know if somebody in North Korea has pushed a button and you've got ICBMs coming, or you don't know if it's a tornado, or you really don't know what it is. It's just a siren. It's noise outside. And it's, as you said, I'm old enough to remember when we used to test downtown the civil defense system sirens that we had, and it got to be where, nobody even paid attention to it. So I understand that the cost is a lot, and you can't put a price on human life, but everything has to be a calculated return on investment type of deal, and this just doesn't even seem to enter the front door as far as something that would even move the needle as far as justifying $3 million or even $1 million. I just don't see it. It's my perspective.
Thank you. Councilmember Samuel.
Well, in looking at everything that's presented, if you look at 7-year warranties, is that what I saw on there? And $3 to $4 million each time, and over a 60-some year period, there's been only a few instances where that would have been applicable. With that in mind, but that is the old process. In light of the new process, it seems more feasible to rely on the electronics or the digital alarms that we have present now. We have to be fiscally sound, responsible, and we have to use, not that we can put a price on a life, but we have to be fiscally prudent when we make decisions with the money that we're entrusted with, and that's the money for the system. It appears to me that the best way to approach and reach the people would be through the vehicles that they have today. And I tend to agree with Councilman Getz, that that appears to be one of the most prudent ways to do it, and do it fiscally sound.
Councilmember Turner.
So with that being said, Tim, can you get some other alternatives for seniors who might not have access to those cell phones? Because I understand what each council member is saying, but I just want to make sure we look at all alternatives, because we do have seniors that do live alone that don't have access to the cell phones. What are some other additional vehicles for them that would be helpful to this situation?
Yes, sir. We do have landlines too, just as a reminder, but yes, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem Duria.
Tim, these notification systems, are they periodically updated or upgraded to make them better and reach more people, more useful?
They're constantly, all technology is constantly evolving, and this system is no different. And we're currently working with the region on an update for the vendor.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Oknichek, if you have Life Alert, do those signals go to Life Alert?
I don't know. I can find out.
That would be a good question to know, because if someone is living alone, they don't have a cell phone, but pre-K has cell phones now. So is there anyone sitting in the audience that does not have a cell phone?
They might not tell the truth, man. You putting them on the spot.
I mean, really, if you go to daycare, they almost have a cell phone. So that would be a good question to find out if Life Alert could get the signal, because if they don't have a cell phone, if there's some way it could be sent to a Life Alert. And I would find it very, very strange if that signal could not be sent, because if they push the button, it goes to a system. And I would think it would probably work both ways.
Yeah.
Because I can't see spending anywhere from $1 to $3, almost $4 million on something you can't hear inside of your home. And the purpose of having it is so that you could hear it to take cover for, to protect yourself. But if it's a tornado or if it's bad weather, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be outdoors unless you're just caught outdoors and it's just happening. Any other comments? Thank you for a great report. We appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. So now is the time for any citizen that would like to speak publicly on the consent agenda or regular agenda items 1 through 2. If you haven't already done so, fill out the green slip to the back of the room. Fill it out, hand it to the clerk to the front of the room. She will call your name when it's time for you to speak. We would appreciate it if you would keep your comments to 3 minutes. The green light will come on at the beginning of your 3 minutes. The red light will be your indication that your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
James Eller, 3587 East Lucas Drive, Beaumont, Texas. Item G on the consent agenda.
Hello, how y'all doing?
How are you?
All right, all right. I just wanted to point out, I didn't know if y'all looked into it or not. Somebody had sent me information on possibly on G, there could be a tax owed on that. Oh, could be a tax owed on that for $42,000. So on that particular property. So I know on red tagged homes, we're, having issues. Somebody looked up the tax thing, so
I'm just saying item G isn't the red tag property one.
No, I was just comparing it to. I was saying because on red tagged properties, supposed to be up to date on taxes. But if we're going to go into a contract on a property with taxpayers' money, I just want to make sure that property was fully paid in taxes then. And possibility, I have pictures of the screenshot on that information. They pulled up, and it's possibility of 42, almost 42, 284 and 83 cents as of if paid by May 31st, 2023. And that's going to be the property owner, which would be of LaShawn Proctor. Then it shows Post Oak Bank, and then it's United States. All that goes into 2020 with a tax lien that was paid, released for federal, but then we go into 2023, and it shows that there's a possibility of a $43,000 payment needed on that. So just wanted to put that up to council, let y'all know that before we spend out taxpayers' money, possibility. So if y'all could do that a little bit further before actually voting on that one particular thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kenneth Earls, 1265 Condon, Beaumont, Texas. He wants to speak on the consent agenda. Not sure which one.
As some of you know, I'm a retired fireman. I come from the Metroplex. We've had tornadoes that run 45 miles in that area. If a tornado come through Beaumont, hit west, the west area of this city, they will run you out of town for not having those sirens up. I personally lived in a $700,000 home. Whenever those sirens went off, I could hear them inside my home. How many individuals leave their cell phones in the kitchen or somewhere else and forget about them? You have to be able to hear those things. You have to hear what is going on. Cell phone is not always activated. Sometimes your cell phone may be off or some other thing. I'm going to ask the city manager, our present mayor, and the mayor that's to come, and the city council to leave this city and go to the Metroplex and ask those cities whether those sirens work. And I will tell you, to a man and a woman on those councils, they'll tell you those are the things that save lives. If you have 100 lives get taken when a storm come here, you'll be in trouble. We just recently had a storm that came through Nome, Texas. Luckily, it didn't hit Beaumont, But if it had stayed on the ground, which so often they do, they will come through this city. We have to make sure that we protect the people and the individuals that that live here. Mr. Turner, when you asked about the soft spots in the city of Beaumont, that would be covered by, the payments would probably be covered by the county, the city, and the federal government. Don't always look at it and say that we're going to pay the actual costs for all those things. Like I said, Texas is in that tornado belt. It's in the hail belt. It's in the hurricane belt. Those sirens, you have to teach those individuals that are hearing it that those things are some of the things that could potentially come through here. It's not always about the nuclear weapons that we had when we were kids.
Just finish your sentence.
I'll repeat this. You have to get up and leave this town and go to places where they've had those storms. The young man that was up here, he gave you part of it. He didn't give all of it. $1.3 million over 30 years is a small amount of money to pay for the protection for this city. Hopefully, in the next 20 years, this city will be approximately 300,000 if we do the right things.
Thank you, Mr. Earls.
Mayor, I just wanted to point out that that was not an item that was on the consent or regular agenda items. That should have been moved to public comment, but I missed it because I was trying to verify the information for item G. So just moving forward, anybody who else wants to speak on the presentation will need to do so in public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any others, Mayor.
Thank you. At this time, I'll call for a motion for the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
Move to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Councilmember Samuel, then Councilmember Neal, then Councilmember Getz.
Yes, in light of the enlightenment or the question posed for item G, I'd like the maker of the motion to exclude item G, and we can ask staff to verify the information that has been given. So I'd like to ask for an amendment to the motion that's on the floor to exclude item G.
Okay, I'll call.
Even though an amendment doesn't require a second, I would agree with that.
Yeah, Mayor, if necessary, I'll amend my motion to approve consent agenda excluding item G.
May I have a second, please?
It's been seconded.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to approve consent agenda excluding item G. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Mayor, with item G, I'd like to request that that be brought back to the agenda for next week, pending verification of the questions that have been posed.
And before there's a motion, Council, that is one option, but you can also award the bid contingent on them being current or on a current payment plan. That information has not been verified that they are behind, so I would hate for it to be delayed.
Yes. I would agree. Well, I will move that item G be approved, contingent upon verification that they are current or in a payment plan with the city as to the question that's been posed.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Councilmember Turner.
Just discussion before we move off of it. It's now the time. I had a question about item C. I know, but I still, I just have a question.
Okay.
I'm okay with approving it. I'll approve it as well. I know we're talking about projectors and this particular facility at Jefferson Theater.
just because we have a current motion and a second on the floor on item G, would you mind holding that question until after that's approved?
Yes, but I still want to ask it.
You can ask.
All right.
We'll let you.
Mayor, I have information on item G. So staff just researched it, and they sent me a screenshot from the tax assessor's collector's office showing there's no back taxes due.
Okay, so would you?
I will.
I mean, the motion can stand as is, and we can make sure prior to
because
the bid.
This is one lot, and it's titled Roberts Haviland Express. It's on 3590 Washington Boulevard. We can search and see if there's other properties under the business's name, but as far as the screenshot from the tax assessor collector's office, this property is clear as far as being current on taxes.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question. Is this time sensitive? Can we do whatever due diligence that we need to do and put it off to next week without any harm?
Well, Councilman,
go ahead. I'm sorry, Councilman.
I simply ask that we move forward with the approval pending, because otherwise anyone can come up here and say anything at the podium, and then we'll postpone our business, and whether it can be verified or not. But if it can be verified, then we've not done any harm to the applicant who's made this, and we can move forward with our business.
To add rest to that, based on the way the motion was presented, if there is something that comes up that would prevent, if there's other properties or whatnot, we would not award the bid, but this would just prevent it from having to be delayed for whatever reason, if it was clear and all the properties were clear.
That's my concern too. Just as we can.
So the motion does protect us from, it requires us to do due diligence before awarding.
Right.
Mayor.
Moment. Councilmember Neal, then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, I guess just more of a comment. So are we not awarding any contracts to anybody in the city that's behind on taxes? I mean, is that the new standard that we're setting?
That's not new.
That's not new.
But I'd never recall this coming up my entire time to be on council.
I don't think it's ever been brought forward to the podium.
I will say that purchasing does do due diligence before any award. They do see if there's any money owed to the city, whether it's property taxes, permits, water bills, et cetera. They just do that as part of their due diligence to see what funds, if any, are owed to the city.
And I'm not against it, but I just want to make sure we're consistent.
It is a notice, it's a part of the bid packet. So it does go through. And then, as he said, purchasing does a due diligence as well. So the business owner would have been made aware of it before today.
Mayor Pro Tem, then Councilmember Getz.
So the way the motion is right now, go through, do your due diligence and research, and everything is good. It doesn't have to come back to us as approved.
That's correct.
Okay.
Councilmember Getz.
Madam Attorney, I just want to follow up on that. In our bid packages, is there anything that excludes people from being able to be considered if they owe back taxes or money to the city?
No, they would be able to enter into a payment plan, be consistent, but it would just kind of be brought up to their attention that this is a thing that could be considered. So it would be brought to their attention. But I can tell you most of our bidders are responsible, and they're either current on their taxes or in some form of current payment plan. And for the record, if you have a payment plan and you are current on your payment plan, you're not considered to be behind.
Thank you.
I would just like to make a comment. I just believe because of staff doing their due diligence, that's probably why we've never seen it before. Thank you, Todd. So, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. May I have the reading of item number 1, please, Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council consider awarding funds to the Greater Beaumont Chamber of Commerce to facilitate the development of an innovation grant program, a growth and expansion program, and a minority growth and expansion grant program. Some time ago, a few weeks, a month ago, President of and CEO of the Chamber Steve Elanius came and gave you a presentation on future activities of the Chamber in regards to economic development. And many of those things involve the city of Beaumont. And in that presentation, he talked about this particular program, what he's going to talk about today. So I'm going to ask Mr. Lanius to come forward and give you a presentation on what he's proposing.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mayor, Council, Stephen Lanius, President and CEO of the Greater Beaumont Chamber of Commerce. Excited to be here. There's some really great things starting to happen in Beaumont, and appreciate the partnership that we have with the city and moving forward. But before I get started, I want to recognize I have with me my chair-elect, John Morrell, and then also other board members of the chamber and staff. If they would please stand. And appreciate their support. I think they recognize the importance of the partnership in what we're doing. Just to kind of bring you up to speed, we've launched several different programs within the last several months. I just want to give you just a brief history of some of these. The Inventors and Entrepreneurs Network we launched 2 months ago. It is a network designed to foster innovation and entrepreneurs that have an idea that they want to bring to the marketplace. We launched, many of you participated in the Focus on Business luncheon and presentation with the Port of Beaumont. That is part of the Economic Development Program to show appreciation to major employers and economic drivers in the community. 2 weeks ago, we launched the Beaumont Economic Pulse, and that's designed to kind of measure the economy. And if we're going to have growth, it's good to know what we're trying to grow. And then we're going to be launching in June the 10X Small Business Mentoring Program, again, designed to bring a cohort of small businesses and startups together to go through a 4-month process of how to develop their business and to grow it. So this brings us to what we're proposing today, which is the Small Business Growth and Expansion Fund and the 10X, and the Entrepreneur Innovation Grant. So these programs, I want to use this as a demonstration project for the community. The request is for $50,000, $15,000 for the general fund, growth and expansion fund, $15,000 for minority-owned business growth and expansion fund, and $10,000 for the First Step Innovation grant program. The additional $10,000 beyond that would be used to market the program and make people aware of it. In your, I sent over a basic executive summary of the program and what it's designed. There's certain things, certain businesses that would not be eligible for that, or certain ideas that would not be eligible for those grants. We're looking for businesses that have been in existence for 5 years or longer, that have a proven track record. And then there's a pretty rigorous process that these businesses have to go through to justify the funding. We don't pay the business directly. We pay third party, meaning we pay their vendors. So they're not going to be able to pocket the money and go to Disneyland. And the idea is to create that, what I call that flywheel effect of success in our community. I've found that capital goes where it's welcome and stays where it's well treated. A small business development program and an entrepreneur program such as these are foundational for an economic development program. Everyone gets excited about bringing in new businesses to a community, and you typically hear businesses that have been here for 15, 20 years, hey, what about us? And this program is designed to help with that aspect of the small businesses. And so I think it's a great partnership. I wanted to start out with a smaller amount to make it more doable and to use it as a demonstration project. So I'd be happy to answer questions.
Questions?
Should we have a motion on the floor before we have discussion?
Technically, yes. That is your process. But, it's been a day.
Well, if we're going to follow the process.
I would love that.
Okay.
Before, I'm going to follow the process.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to call for a motion. May I have a motion, please?
So moved to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Councilmember Getz.
I like the direction that the chamber is moving in, and congratulations to you for your recertification with the international, what was it?
International Economic Development Council.
It just shows that you know what you're talking about and you come from a position of knowledge. This particular item, however, is something that is not budgeted in this current fiscal year. I don't have any problem with what you were trying to do with this. I think it's good to be able to have something to offer people, startups, small businesses. I think that's good. But it was 4 years ago when Councilmember Samuel pointed out to me when I was trying to get a dog park in Rogers Park, there's a process that you got to follow. And, the process is you lobby for something and you get it put in the budget and then you can do it. Now, I had to wait 4 years to get this dog park funded, but, we're looking at maybe 4 months before our next fiscal year starts. And I just think that it's important to be consistent, as Councilmember Neal continuously alludes to. We need to follow the process. I like the idea, but I would like to see the process followed. We're about to start budget negotiations in earnest. We always do that in May. Steve, is there anything that would be detrimental, would it harm this whole program to the extent that if we waited till October, would it be a problem?
No, sir. I mean, again, my goal is to get it up and running because, again, I want to kind of create that momentum for our community. But no, since it's never been done before, it would not hurt the process.
In one of my frustrations, I have students that call me or email me asking me, what are some of your biggest frustrations as a city councilman? And usually it's how slow the process goes, how difficult it is to move the wheel down the road. We're not talking 4 years here, we're talking 4 months. So with that, I would like to amend the motion that was brought to table this till the next council meeting after the October budget goes into effect. And that's an amendment which I think needs to be acted on before we go any further and have any further discussion. Is that correct, Ms. City Attorney?
Just to clarify, you're asking that the motion be tabled because you would technically approve the budget in September for effectiveness on October 1st. So that last meeting in September would be September 26th. We typically approve it before then, but the last day that you could approve it would be September 26th. The finance director is checking in.
So the following meeting, I'd like to see this brought back.
So you would like it brought back after the budget is approved, or you would like it brought back after
the budget is approved?
Okay.
Excuse me, Councilmember Turner.
In fairness, I think it's only right I'll be able to ask this question prior to us voting on this. To staff, have we ever approved anything that was outside of the budget? I've been on council 2 years. I know we have, but I want to hear y'all say it.
We have. That's one of the reasons why we do budget amendments every year. And also, wasn't trying to be flippant. I'm just saying we amend the budget every year usually for unforeseen costs. Also, the charter allows us to budget a contingency for emergencies or unforeseen items. I think it's up to $1.5 million in the general fund. And we do that by budgeting 100% of payroll, knowing we're going to have vacancies throughout the year. So our contingency is basically budgeted within payroll.
And I had a follow-up question. When we look at small businesses, I think prior to me running way back in 2021, one of the main concerns in the city of Beaumont was we focus on big industry, we focus on big projects, but we have no emphasis on small businesses. And we as a council have an opportunity to actually show about small businesses that we do care about them. We appreciate what they've done in this community, and this is an opportunity to do so. Whether it be right now or 4 months, we're still saying we're in favor of doing so. So I just want to stress that, what have we done as a city to really focus on small businesses? And from the chamber's aspect, I appreciate y'all doing the due diligence and work to actually try to bring a program or something to that magnitude to the table. I just wanted to let y'all know I appreciate it.
One moment. Mr. Elanius,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you for bringing this to the council. But I have a question to the city manager. Mr. Williams, you could also approve 50,000 or less, correct?
Yeah, technically, city manager has approval authority of less than $50,000.
Okay, thank you. So, Councilmember,
I was after.
okay, Councilmember Felshaw, then Councilmember Getz, and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't mean to speak for this council, but what I sense here today is this council seems to be in favor of what you're bringing to us. You seem to be in favor of waiting 4 months. So with that in mind, I have a question for the staff. Can this council not make a motion to approve this today being put in our budget so that we're able to get done what he wants to be done, and also try to work with the request of Councilman Getz to follow the process? Can that motion be made?
So technically, council doesn't need to make a motion to add something to the budget. Typically, at our budget workshop, we get a consensus of what y'all would like to see, and we start working, our staff starts working to do that. We've heard from you today, so there's really not
So you don't need
a necessity of a
an
motion.
action item.
Yeah, it's not a necessity for y'all to do that. If you, I guess, agree with Councilman Getz to table and have the item brought back for that time. However, if it's added to the budget, if it's a budgeted line item, it wouldn't necessarily need to come back at all.
I support your program, Steve. I'm just trying to find a way to move past this, and let's move on.
I'm excited. I think there's great opportunities here. And obviously, as elected officials, I'm a big believer in that's your policy decision. And so, we want to be working with you, and we want to all be going the same direction. So, I'm going to defer to how you want to do this. But I do think it's an important aspect of an overall economic development program. I will say this, Councilmember Getz, I like to do this as a demonstration project. I hope it's going to be a huge success, and that we can fund more money in the future.
I have a quick question for you. Would you have a problem if we did approve it today?
No, ma'am, absolutely
Okay,
not.
I didn't think so. Okay. Councilmember Getz.
Thank you, Mayor. First, Todd, one of the reasons we have these contingencies in the budget is for unforeseen emergency things. So a lot of the times when we do budget amendments, it is for something that is unforeseen. It's responding to exigent circumstances. Isn't that correct?
So a lot of times, depending on which fund you're talking about, the general fund, we usually amend that at the end of the year because we have other funds like the Municipal Transit Fund, Capital Reserve Fund, General Liability Fund that get their revenue from the general fund. And so if those funds deplete their cash faster than what was estimated, we'll transfer more money into those funds. So it's those type of usually unforeseen things or emergencies. It could be something as simple as we didn't know gas was going to, spike up in price, or chemicals at the water plant were going to spike up in price.
Exactly. And the other thing, and I want to applaud the city manager for this. Yes, you do have the ability to, with the stroke of a pen, approve up to $50,000. And sometimes that's been done in the past. That is not transparent government. And I compliment you for bringing this forward so that we could talk about it today and have the transparency in government that I think most citizens demand.
Thank you. Mr. Samuel, then Mayor Pro Tem.
Wow. I thought this is kind of, Mike, I do agree with you. there's a purpose of a process, and it's not one to be taken lightly. One of the things that I think has allowed this city to be in the position that it is because we've been fiscally prudent. Yes, we have the opportunity to put things into the budget that's not been budgeted. But again, that's for contingencies. And it's not wise to use a contingency every time we have a want. So with that, I do understand, but I also want to correct, this is not the first time we've done things or programs to benefit small business. We've historically supported the development of small businesses. And just because there's one issue that we do not feel is necessary at the time, it doesn't mean we do not support it. So we've had minority business programs over the years. I've been one of the proponents for it over the years, but the funding for that has diminished coming from Washington as well as state support. So to say we're not pro-minorities or pro-small business, I think that would be a misstatement. We're beginning our budget process next week. And that's what this is all about, putting those programs or helping those programs that we see are in need in our city to see them develop. So I appreciate that. I'm really happy to see the chamber is taking an initiative with the demonstrative program to assist in the development of small businesses throughout our city. And I say thank you very much. But again, this is a process, and I think there's a process placed for a purpose. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Steve, do you have experience with these type of funds? And if you do, can you tell us about the success rate?
Sure. I've done this for over 20 years where I came from. It was a very successful program to help grow small businesses and entrepreneurs. We've had a lot of success stories of businesses getting on the shelf with HEB. For a guy who was doing a barbecue sauce, selling it out of the back of his trunk of his car, and now was selling 2 to 3 cases a month, is now selling over 500 cases a month with HEB. We had a success story of a woman who was going through a divorce and all of a sudden was trying to figure out how she was going to support herself, and she launched a small business that she was able to use the farmer's market to generate over $5,000 a month to support her family. And so there's great success stories. I've learned over the years that where the pitfalls are, and that's one of the reasons why we do a third-party pay, is because we want to make sure it goes to what it's supposed to go to and not somebody's vacation trip. And we've also learned that you want to get past that 5-year mark. Once you get past that 5-year mark with a small business, their survival rate goes up tremendously. It's that valley of death from the 1 year to 5 year that you got to really, be concerned about businesses being successful. So I think the way we've got this set up, the odds of success are much greater. Plus, we go through what I similar to Shark Tank, but I call it a dolphin tank, right? We have a panel of judges. There's some very detailed things that the applicants have to show and demonstrate in terms of the program. And what happens with that is it starts a thought process for them in terms of where they want to really take their business. A lot of times, I know it's hard to believe, a lot of times people start a business without ever sitting down and doing a business plan. And coming up with that roadmap and the directions that you want to go and where the opportunities are and where your customers are is a good process. And so what we've seen that even the businesses that didn't get awarded it the first time, we encourage them to come back and kind of learn from what the judges have suggested that they do, and we've seen people come back the second and third year and win the grant. So it's a very positive program, and that's one of the things we want to make sure it's positive and encouraging, that people don't walk away discouraged.
Thank you.
One more question.
Sure.
Chris, Is this something that CDBG funds could be used for, or CBDG?
Short answer is yes. And we've had a CDBG small business revolving loan fund in the past. We actually had one for probably 3 decades. But because of some of the changes in the administration out of the local office, because the issue we were having is some of them are very high risk loans, and HUD was saying, look, if they apply for X number of dollars and they say they're going to create 5 jobs, if they don't, then basically the local taxpayers were paying back the federal money. And so that program was discontinued probably about 5 years ago.
One moment. Councilmember Samuel and Councilmember Getz.
Yes. So this is very similar to what we did in the past with the small business development revolving loans.
Yes, that was federal money, but yes, sir.
Okay.
Actually, this is a grant, not a loan.
Yeah, this is a grant. This isn't a loan.
Okay.
A grant is not being paid back. The revolving loan had a series of time, and I think it was like.
But it's for the same target.
It ended up decreasing.
Same idea. Start businesses, create jobs, expand jobs.
So the concepts are similar, except that this is actually money that would be given
This is money from the city given to the chamber
to operate a program.
to operate the program, whereby previously the city did that. The city received the funds and the city administered the program. This would eliminate the city from having to manage the program. This is the chamber will be managing the program.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
But it also eliminates the recipient from having to pay it back, which the recipient had to do under the loan program, but not under this.
The recipient was supposed to repay it, and that's what created the problem.
Fair enough.
Why we no longer have it.
Yeah.
So to make sure I'm following it, we did in the past from a city a revolving loan, not a grant. It's a difference.
Correct. They were loans, yes.
Okay. And the loans were supposed to pay back, but the reality is what happened if they didn't? They just didn't pay it back, correct?
That's the reason the program's suspended, is because several were not paying it back. And so HUD came back to the city and said, well, then you need to pay it back.
Right.
Fair enough.
Out of our budget.
Yes, sir.
So this way, this eliminates the city, and then the chamber
Right.
administer it and oversee it.
Yes, ma'am.
But the difference is this is a grant. It's not a loan, so they don't have to pay it back.
Well, it's a grant program to them.
But they don't have to pay it back. It's
Correct.
a grant.
That
And it
is
will be
correct.
paid directly third party, not directly to the business owner.
Business, it goes to their vendor.
Whereas Councilmember Turner in the past, if they did the loan through the city, if they did not use it for their businesses, we had no way of knowing that because they got the funds. And then if their business went belly up, we don't know if it went belly up because of bad finances through, of their own, or just business was bad.
So I agree with you, Councilman. This is a better opportunity for the businesses. It's going to exactly what we would want it to go to. The only thing that's different is this something we want to bypass the procedure to do, or do we just put it into the budget? And it can even be broader if placed into the budget, whereby this can be a program that the chamber, it's a demonstrative program project anyway. So if it's successful now, we could very well put more into that program after the first budget process. But it's just a matter of putting it into the budget rather than just taking it from a fund balance and moving it somewhere else, and the fund balances are always there in the event of emergency or other contingencies that we might need. And that's fiscal prudence.
Yes, sir. I totally understand. I'm not opposed to following the process, but I just know we have, as a council, went in that budget that wasn't budgeted. And I just want to make that clear. So we're saying consistency, but I know we have done it since I've been on council. We have went in and did something that wasn't budgeted. I just want to make that clear. But outside of that, I don't mind if the majority of the council wants to do that. But if we're going to talk about it, we're going to be transparent. We have done it in the past.
Can we call the question?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. What do you suggest, Mr. Williams?
You never fail to disappoint me, Chris. I just want to, no matter what council does, and it's up to you how you do it, and how you do this process, but I just want to support Stephen, what he's saying. Small business development and supporting small business is a very vital part of your economic development plan. Economic development is built on three things: recruitment of new business, retaining existing business, and expansion of existing business. And oftentimes cities get criticized for going out and recruiting the big box, the new things that come to town. They don't take care of the people that are in town. And then they get criticized and you lose people in whatever you're trying to do with your economic development policies and plans. So it's very important to have that. No matter how you do it, it's key that you support your local business and provide tools for them to survive and grow and thrive and expand, So that's what I'll say now. Whether you vote today or whether you vote on budget, it's still going to take a vote of this council to put this in the budget. So because you got to vote to approve the budget. So whatever you do is that, but I just encourage you to support local business and don't leave them out of any kind of development plan because you're going to need them to support some of your bigger projects when you go out there. So just make sure you keep that in mind.
Thank you. Councilmember Getz, still?
Yeah, call the question and let's have a vote on it, please.
Well, I'll call.
Clarity, can we restate the motion?
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Correct. The amended motion was to bring it back to October, the first meeting after the budget was approved. That was the amended motion that is currently on the floor.
Yes, ma'am.
One more question before we get a second on that. Just to be clear.
We don't need a second on that.
It was an amended motion. It doesn't require a second.
One more statement. I just want to make sure we stick to the content of this proposal with the small business fund and the minority fund. I don't want us to come back in October and now we're talking about something completely different. I want to make sure it's clear today that if we are going to wait, it's going to be on the same tone that we're talking about on the day. I don't want to come back in October and it's a different conversation or trying to change something around.
Councilman Turner, I agree with you. I think the staff here today senses that there's a consensus on this council to move forward with this item. We're just wanting to do it through the process. And so I think it's upon the staff and the council to be watchful of this and to make sure that this does land in our budget. Because, Steve, we do appreciate what you're trying to do.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilmember Samuel.
can I throw a wrench in?
Sure.
Okay, I think it's important to understand and put everything into perspectives. Everybody understands now, or what we always have understood, there's a process that we should follow. Councilmember Getz brought up the fact that maybe this is something we need to put into the budget and follow the process. With that, you can't always compare everything together. Sometimes they're a little bit different. Apples are different from pears. I think you mentioned it's not crucial to be done right now, but I hear Councilmember Turner wanting to make sure small businesses know we're supporting them and we're supporting them now. I don't think we can continue to just do things outside of this procedure and feel we are being consistent with our procedure. But there are times that we should look at. Is there a need now? Small businesses having gone through the pandemic, Small businesses are closing. Small businesses need these funds not next month. They need them yesterday.